is the tutorial for the study guide for Algebra Quiz 11. So let's take a look at our first type of problems. So again, the test is going to be over these sections up here. 5, 6 dealt with parallel and perpendicular lines and writing equations that pass through those types. And so we have to know something about parallel lines, and that's what the first question is asking us. So we're trying to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form is that y equals mx plus b. So we're trying to find the slope and the y-intercept. And we want to write one that is parallel to the line given to us. So the first thing I need to do is I need to know something about parallel lines, and I know they have the same slope. So I'm going to pull the slope from this line right here, 5. And so my slope of the line is 5. The parallel slope, so this is my symbol for parallel, just two lines right next to each other. So the parallel slope will end up equaling the same number, 5. And so I'm going to use that slope and use the point that they give me in point slope, which goes this way. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I substitute, and I've got this. Y minus negative 4 equals the slope of 5 times by x minus 5. So I go ahead and distribute, and I've got a y plus 4, because I added the opposite there. This all equals 5x minus 25. So from that point, I'll subtract the 4 from all sides, and I do that, and I have the same sign, so I end up having to add. So my answer is going to be y equals 5x minus 29. So looking at the next problem, it says to do the same thing. Write an equation in slope-intercept form that is this time perpendicular to this equation. So we see that perpendicular slopes have something specific as well. They're not the same, though. They are opposite and reciprocal slopes. So the slope of the line given to us was 4 over 5. The perpendicular slope, that's my symbol for perpendicular, my perpendicular slope is going to be negative 5 over 4. So you take the reciprocal of the fraction you have, and you take the opposite sign. So this one's positive, so this one's going to be negative. So looking at that, we take the point slope formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and substitute. So we rewrite the equation, or the point, y minus negative 3 equals the slope I've got, negative 5/4, times by x minus 4. So I'm going to distribute, and again, this is going to be another y plus 3, because I added the opposite. And this all equals negative 5/4 x. And then this time it's a plus 5. So how do I get that? Well, 4's cancel out. Negative signs cancel. Well, 1's left over here. 1 times 5 made 5. So all I have to do is subtract the 3, and we'll have our answer. Y equals negative 5/4. So it's a negative 5. Let me fix that. So negative 5/4 x plus 2. So there is our answer. So looking at our next problem, this is going to be from Chapter 5, Section 7, and this deals with scatter plots. So what we first want to do is, there's actually 4 parts to this problem. We've got to make a scatter plot, then draw the trend line, then write an equation, and then predict. So we got 4 things to do. First thing I would do, look at the information they give you, and let's draw the data. So before I can draw it, I need to figure out what's x and what's y. Well, looking at the problem, it's weight of a panda. It says age in months, weight over here. Well, which one depends on the other? Weight's going to depend on age, and so I'm going to put weight on the y-axis. So we'll call that weight, and it is in pounds. And then I've got the age of the panda in months. And now I've got to come up with some intervals. So I look at the numbers I've got, and it looks like ages are going up by 1, so I'm going to go up by 1s as well. And so I'm going to skip every other one, but I'll put 2 for that one, 4 and 6. And then of going up, I've got to get up to 17.1. So looks like I could probably go by 2s, and that'll give me enough space to go up. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Yes, so enough room there, and now we plot the points. Real important to be pretty careful as you plot these. So 1 month over, 2.5 up. So there's 2. 3 would be in the middle, so 2.5 is going to be a little less than halfway up. And then 2 months, 7.6. So 7, well, this is 6 right here. 7 is right in the middle, so 7.6 is going to be a little bit further up, closer to the 8. And then over at 3 months, 12.5. So there's 12. Well, 13 would be right in between 14 and 12. So 12.5 is going to be a little closer to the line on 12, right in between halfway and 12. And then 17.1, so 4 months over, 17, there's 16. 17 is right in the middle between 18 and 16, so you can figure it's pretty close to the middle there for 17.1. So use a ruler, draw the line. I don't have the ability to put a ruler on this, so I'm going to have to sketch it by hand, but as I look at it, notice it's going to come down through these points, and it's going to be going through the x-axis, so the y-axis is going to end up, or y-intercept is going to be negative. That's okay for this trend line. It doesn't mean that we are negative pounds. Remember, this is just a trend line. It's not exact. So let me go ahead and try fixing that a little bit more. So remember, this is going to just give us a prediction of where things are at. And so it'll look something like that. And so what you see is, okay, I definitely see how it's going below the y-axis on the negative side for the y-intercept. I see that, and so I'm going to look for that as I go ahead and write the equation. So now I've done 2 parts. I've drawn the scatter plot, drew the trend line through the points as best I could, and I'll come up with some values. So I'm going to pick a point up here, and I'm going to pick a point down here. So I just kind of pick values that looks like it goes through. Now when I pick the points, I'm not going to use the same points they have on the information, the data that I had. I'm going to use points that kind of look like they work here. So looking at this point here, it is 2.7.6. I'm going to go with 2.7.5 because it looks like it's a little below my line. So I'm going to do 2.7.5. The other reason I'm doing this is it makes the numbers work out a little bit easier. So I'm going to end up canceling out some numbers. So I want to cancel out this 0.5 as I do this next one. And as I look at 4, it looks like it might be a little bit above this point here. And the point was 17.1. I'm going to call it 17.5. So I'm going to call it 4, 17.5. And it's pretty close. And the reason I like that is it gives me an easier number to deal with when I'm trying to find the slope. So my slope is, I'm going to go with just subtracting the y values here, 17.5 minus 7.5, and I do the same thing in the denominator, so 4 minus 2, so that's going to end up giving me 10 over 2, and that's going to be pretty close. So you should have a slope close to 5. So your slope should be close to 5. And if you did a best fit, and I did a best fit a while ago, and I think for these 4 points it was right around 4.7. So your slope should be really close to 5. If it's at 4 or if it's at 6, you're doing something wrong. So make sure it's a little closer to 5. It should round to 5, definitely. So that's my slope. Now I have to write the equation. So I'm going to do y minus, and then I'll pick this point, 7.5. Equals my slope 5 times my x minus, and I use 2 for the x component. So when I go ahead and do this, it's y minus 7.5 equals 5x minus 10. So when I go ahead and solve, I end up with y equals 5x, and it's going to end up being minus 2.5 when I go ahead and bring that 7.5 over to the other side. And that's what I expect. I expected that y-intercept to be negative when I look at my trend line. So again, this just gives me a trend line. It's just a prediction of where the values are. Don't think of it as, oh, it doesn't make sense because it's negative 2.5 and I can't have a negative weight. Don't worry about that. It's just a prediction. It'll work its way out in when we go ahead and substitute values in there. So I go ahead and take a value of, let's say, 7, because they want us to estimate at 7 months, and we're going to go ahead and substitute that in. So y equals 5 times by 7, and then minus 2.5. So y equals 35 minus 2.5, and so that's going to give us 32.5. And so that's the weight of the panda after 7 months. So we can say at 7 months, the panda and it will be about 32.5 pounds. So again, don't worry about the negative component of that y-intercept there, the beginning value. Again, this is just these 4 points that we had. Where does that line up? And for our situation, that's what it did. It ended up making a negative value, but it does allow us to come up with some pretty close approximations for weights, or for weights when ages are in like 7 or more than 4 here. So let's take a look at the next type of problem. And it's asking us to solve some systems. So this comes from section 1, 2, and 3 of chapter 6. And so the first 2 problems are going to ask us to solve by graphing. So I'm looking for where it crosses, where the lines cross. So I'm going to start with this one. The slope of the line is 1, and the y-intercept is 0. So here my slope is 1, y-intercept is 0 for this line. And so I'm starting at 0 and then just using that slope of 1 to 1. Now I'll just draw some dots there. And I'll go down the other way, and I'm going to kind of fill in all the spaces I have because I want to see where they cross. So in this next equation, the y-intercept is -3, the slope is -2 to 1. So I'm going to start at -3, and I use the slope. It's down 2 over 1 to the right. Now I ran out of room that way, and I need to go up, and that's where they end up crossing, up to 1 to the left. I'll do that a few more times so you can see the line. So you can see this is where they cross. That's the solution. So our answer is this point, and that point is 1 space to the left and 1 space down. So -1, -1 is what we're looking for there. So on this next one, our y-intercept is -3. Our slope is 1/3. So I'm starting down 3 spaces and then using the slope. Up 1 over 3 to the right. I could also go the other way, down 1, 3 to the left. And I've got those 2 or 3 points. Let's try the next line. So this one I have to move that 2x over. And when I do that, I have y equals -2x plus 4. So now I know what the slope of the line is. The slope is -2 to 1. And my y-intercept is +4. So I'll start with that y-intercept and use that slope, down 2 over 1 to the right. Do that a few times till you see where those lines cross. And that's it at this point. So that spot is 1, 2, 3, 3 spaces right and 2 spaces down. So the point is 3, -2. So looking at the next one, this one's asking us to solve by substitution. So when I do that, I'm going to take this expression right here, I'm going to substitute in for y. So now I have 2x plus 3 times by 3x plus 1. And this all equals 25. So just rewrite this bottom equation and then solve. And so when I do that, I distribute, and I've got 2x plus 9x plus 3 equals 25. So when I go ahead and subtract the 3 from all sides, I've got 11x equals 22. So I divide by 11, and I'll get the answer. X is 2. So once I get that, I substitute back in to that top equation. It would probably be the easiest one. 3 times 2 plus 1 is going to be what y is. So 6 plus 1 gives me 7. So y is 7. So our point is 2, 7. That's where the 2 lines end up crossing. That's what we're looking for. So let's take a look at our next 3 problems, and the next one asks us to solve by elimination. So elimination is where I need to modify an equation so I can get either x's or y's to cancel. And I'm going to modify it so I can get the x's to cancel. I already have opposite signs here, so I just need to multiply that bottom equation by 3. And so when I do that, I end up with a -3x plus 3y, and this all equals -6. So I just multiplied all the numbers by 3, and that's what I got. And so I'll rewrite this top equation down below so you can see what happens. So 3x plus 2y equals +6. When I add those, I get the x's to cancel. I get 5y. So now I'm going to have one solution whenever you have just y, or just the one variable left over, you're going to have a solution. And a lot of people say, oh, there's no solution because it equals 0. But that's not the case. You see, if I divide by 5, I end up with y equals 0. So you only get no solution, or infinitely many, when all the variables cancel. But that didn't happen here. See, we still have a variable left over. So now I'm going to find out what the x value is. So I'm going to substitute. Put that 0 in place of probably this y right here. So I got negative x plus 0 equals negative 2. And that just means negative x equals negative 2. So if you divide or multiply by a negative 1, you'll get your answer. X is 2. So the answer is 2, 0. That's where the two lines end up crossing. So now we've got some word problems involving systems. And so let's take a look at the first one. If you buy 6 pens, 1 mechanical pencil, you'll get $1 in change from your $10 bill. All right, so that's an equation. So let's try to define some variables. Let's call P the cost of a pen. And let's say M equals the cost of a pencil, a mechanical pencil. That's why I used M. And so our first equation is going to be 6P plus 1M equals, and then I get $1 back from the $10 bill. So I get 9, or it costs $9. So 1 minus 10, that's where I'm getting 9 from. But if you buy 4 pens, so 4 pens, and 2 mechanical pencils, you get $2 in change. You get $2 in change, so that's going to be $8. So I'll subtract those two, that's where I'm getting that 8 from. So what I'll end up doing is I'm going to multiply the top equation by negative 2, and that's going to end up canceling out the m term. So I'll rewrite what we've got. So we've got negative 12p plus or minus 2m equals, now I'm getting 9 here, times by negative 2 gives me a negative 18. On this other equation, I'll just rewrite it down below. 4p plus 2m equals 8. So when I add these together, I get negative 8p equals negative 10. So when I do that division, it looks like it's going to be a decimal. So divide, and I end up with positive 5/4. And I should get a positive here because I need positive values to make it make sense. Otherwise, they'll be paying me to take their pencils, or pens in this case. So 5/4, what's that represent? Well, it's $1.25 is what that is. So pens cost $1.25 each. That's what they wanted to know. So let's find out what a pencil will cost. So let's substitute $1.25 in for one of these variables. I'm going to put in that top one there. Now when I do this, I'm going to change that 5/4 or $1.25 to 5/4. And then I'll add the m plus or equals 9. So I just put it into this equation. Now go ahead and do some work there. This makes 3 halves, and that leaves me with 15 halves. And plus m equals 9. I like multiplying by fractions better because I don't have to deal with the decimal. Now I'm going to change it back to a decimal because I know that's 7.5. So I'm going to subtract the 7.5 from both sides. And now I've got $1.50 for m. So what's that mean? Well, that's the mechanical pencil. So the pencil costs $1.50 each. So let's take a look at our last problem here, and it says that since my uncle's farm appeared to be overrun with chickens and dogs, I asked him how many of each he had. Being a puzzler as well as a farmer, he replied his dogs and chickens had a total of 148 legs. Ooh, okay. So, and 60 heads. So we need to know something about the legs on the dogs and chickens and the heads on a dog and a chicken. So let's start off with defining some variables. We'll say D equals the number of dogs. And let's go with C equals the number of chickens. So it's always good to define your variables. That way, once you solve for one, you'll understand what it represents. Otherwise, you might end up making an error. So we'll start off with the head or legs equation. How about the legs? So 4 legs on the dog, assuming they all have 4 legs. Same thing with the chickens, 2 legs on a chicken, and that equals 148. And then we have 60 heads, okay? Well, just 1 head apiece. So 1 head on the dog, 1 head on the chicken, and that equals 60 altogether. So we're ready to solve. So the way we'll do that is, let's go ahead and get rid of the chickens. And so we're going to multiply that bottom equation by -2. And So negative 2d minus 2c equals negative 120. So I'll just bring this other equation down, and I've got 4d plus 2c equals 148. So when I add these two together, I get 2d equals, that's a 48 there, so that makes 28. And so I'm ready to divide, and that's going to be 14 dogs. So 14 dogs. That's how many he has. Let's find out the chickens. So the easy one here, because you just substitute into that quantity equation. So it's really just going to be 14 plus c equals 60. So you just automatically subtract the 14. And that gives me 46 chickens. 46 chickens, that is. So we'll say 46 chickens he has. So those are the types of problems you're going to see on this test. Good luck.